Hello and welcome to another video. In this video we're going to continue our look at change events, and this video in particular we're going to look at when one of the cell values in this sheet changes. So it could be any sheet, but for us it's just sheet number 1 as that's the only sheet we have at the moment. When any of these cell values change, we want a macro to execute or execute some VBA code. So that could be anything from a message box, it could be formatting, it could be anything that you wish. But ultimately, it's all about triggering a macro to start based on a change event that happens within this sheet. So the first thing we're going to do is obviously, well, not the first thing we're going to do, we're going to just jump straight into it. So for this to work, we need to make sure that we type our code into the relevant sheet. So for us, we only have sheet number 1. But there we go, we can see we've got sheet 1 here, and we just need to double click to make sure we're into that sheet. And then once here, we can now start typing. So we're going to go private sub, and we're going to put worksheet, and then we're going to go underscore change, open brackets. So that's the first part. So it's a private sub, and this is obviously worksheet change. So obviously when there's a change happening within this worksheet. And we also, within these brackets, we've not done this before, but we need to start typing some extra pieces of information in here as well. So we're going to by val target as range. And so basically what they're saying is obviously our target is going to be a range, and by default it just means the whole of this sheet. So in essence what we can do is we could say that this is our, or not our code entirely, but this is the entire change event we require to be able to execute a code based on a change. So if I was going to here, and let's say we put message box and do hello, so something very basic there. If we come into our sheet, you can see as we navigate around the sheet, nothing happens. But if we just go into a cell and change the value, so put the value of M, could be anything, and hit enter, you can see that we now get that pop-up box. So obviously what's happened is a value has actually changed. Sorry, let me explain that better. So because something has changed within this sheet, upon it being changed, obviously our macro executes, and the only thing we have in that macro at the moment is this message box to say hello. So that will happen every time a change is made in this worksheet. And just to be more specific, it will only happen when a change is made, like as into a cell's value. So if I was to come into here and change the color, so make it yellow, obviously you can see that nothing's happened. If, however, I was going into there and I typed a word such as hello and hit enter, you can see that's what now actually triggers that macro to execute. Also, it's worth noting, even if you don't make a change to the cell, but say like you double click, so as you may know, you don't need to click into a cell, you could just literally select the cell and then make a type to change the contents, or you can double click into a cell if you want to get the cursor. If I was to now move or navigate out of this cell, you can see that it's again executed this pop-up box. And that's because even though no physical change has happened in the sheet, you've actually gone into, should we say, or call it edit mode by having the cursor in there. So obviously that is enough in itself to trigger the code to execute. So, and also it's worth noting, if I was to delete these columns, again, another change event is triggered because I've deleted those columns. So we do OK. So that's how you can do it as a basic change, and that might be relevant if you have maybe some secure information in this sheet, or just something that you want to bring people's attention to that they're not allowed to make a change in that sheet. And you could even do some more advanced features with this. I guess you could probably lock the spreadsheet if you really want nothing to be changed. But you could obviously enforce logic in here, so if statements based on if there's a change happening to help add some policing and control to your worksheet. So the possibilities are quite endless with this, but in short, this first part, we just now looked at how you can obviously execute the code based on any change to that sheet. So let's get a bit more detailed now. So we might want to say that we only want to run this code if something happened or there's a change made in column A. In order to do that, we just need to make a bit more, or update our code and add some more lines. And that we're going to do that through adding an if statement. So to do that, we're going to go if not intersect, open brackets, and then now we need to define our target. So our target was obviously defined or given up in the top here. So we're saying our target as a range. So our target, comma, range and let's say we're going to call this column A. So we literally just need to do the two A's there. Close brackets, because we've got two brackets to close. So if that change is nothing, then execute our code, else end if. So we can go back into here, and now we'll do our message box. Column A has changed. So something a bit more informative there, but you can see, again, very simple. So if we come over back into our sheet, if we now go and change a value, and I was putting random letters and numbers throughout the sheet, you can see if I do any of that in column B onwards, nothing is happening. Although if I go into column A and now put a letter, you can see that it's now going to execute that code. So column A has changed. So that's how you can obviously have your code executed based on the change, but only if that change occurs within a defined range. And we don't have to be the whole of column A. We could change this to maybe just A1 or row 1 to row 5 of column A. So as you can see, if we go to row 6 and make any changes here, nothing is going to update. But if we were to go into row 5 or above, you can see that that will now execute the code. And again, if we delete these columns here, nothing will happen. But if I delete column A, then yeah, a change has happened because some of those values were contained, or our range was contained within that column. So we've covered off some very basic ways of using these two change types. So we've got the change type based on the sheet as a whole, and obviously defining a specific range within there to execute the code as well. In future videos, we'll be looking at more detailed ways, or should we say more advanced ways of why you might want to use or where this type of code comes in real benefit. To give a taster when using user forms. So if you want to get those videos and make sure you don't miss them, please do subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell notification button as well. That way you will be notified as soon as new videos get uploaded onto our channel. Again, if you did enjoy the video, please do give the video a like, as it will be greatly appreciated by myself. And lastly, thank you very much for watching once again, and we'll see you in the next video.